take you back to a simpler time, before the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, before gaming PCs that could rival a NASA supercomputer, back to the olden times of the early 2000s. See, I didn't have a fancy gaming console or a powerful PC. I had what most kids my age had, my parents' PC in the living room with whatever games I could find online. Not on Steam or the Epic Games Store, but on addictinggames.com and Newgrounds. Back then, there were thousands of games to play, all of them free, and most of them were absolute garbage. But every now and then, I'd find a gem hidden in the Flash Games library. I played games like Interactive Buddy, Sniper Assassin, Ed, Edd n Eddy's Candy Machine Deluxe. Yes, these were really the games that we'd play for hours as kids. The reason I bring this up is because two of my favorite Flash horror games were Deep Sleep and Don't Escape, both 2D horror games that required you to solve a series of puzzles while avoiding some kind of a threat. They were creepy and challenging, and I loved playing through them as a kid. I bring this up because Five Nights at Freddy's new Into the Pit game has made me incredibly nostalgic for those games, and I've been playing it a ton since it released just a few weeks ago. But would I consider this a good game? Well, that's what I want to talk about today. What Into the Pit does right, what they did wrong, and what Mega Cat Studios could do if they turn more Fazbear Frights books into games, which I really hope that they do. I'm also going to be putting a spoiler warning here for FNAF Into the Pit, since I'll be talking a lot about the game's story and its ending. Into the Pit is a video game adaptation of one of the stories from the Fazbear Frights series of books. We play as Oswald, a child who's stuck in his hometown having a boring summer. On the last day of his summer vacation, his dad drops him off at Jeff's Pizza while he's at work. Oswald decides to play a prank on his dad and hide in an old ball pit in the back of the restaurant so he can scare him. However, this ball pit allows Oswald to travel through time.
A time-traveling ball pit? Really?
No, stop. We already did that joke in the last video. Yes, it is strange that the ball pit allows Oswald to travel through time. Just roll with it. Anyway, Oswald is transported back to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, the restaurant that would later be shut down and replaced with Jeff's Pizza. Oswald makes friends with some of the kids before something terrible happens. Parents and kids are in a full panic running away while Oswald is waved to the back room by a mysterious golden rabbit called Spring Bonnie, which is actually a special version of one of the other animatronics that allows a person to fit inside and control it. Oswald follows the rabbit to the back only to find that several kids have been brutally attacked by the man in the rabbit suit. Oswald manages to return to the ball pit and pass through to his own timeline. However, Spring Bonnie follows him into the present and kidnaps his dad and drags him back to the past with him. If you read the book, or watched my video recapping the book, which I highly recommend you do after this video, then you'd know that this game is following the story from the book. And while I had several issues with the book, the game does a much better job telling the story. One of my biggest criticisms with the book was how the ball pit was both a time machine and a body swap device, and seemed to not follow any real rules outside what the plot demanded. In the game, however, we see that Oswald's dad didn't swap bodies with the Golden Rabbit, but is instead possessed by the spirit of Spring Bonnie, shown several times when we see his dad but with glowing blue eyes. But then, does Spring Bonnie have the ability to possess others? Okay, look, I liked it better than the book, but I still don't understand the rules of it, so I'm just gonna accept it and move on. At least until Game Theory comes out with a new video that explains everything. The gameplay consists of us spending the day exploring Oswald's hometown, going to school, and playing arcade games at Jeff's Pizza. Then at night, going to the pizzeria in the past to save the missing kids from the Golden Rabbit's clutches. During the nighttime sections, we need to solve a variety of puzzles and find hidden items to save the missing kids, while trying to avoid Spring Bonnie, who is patrolling the pizzeria looking for us. I gotta say, I really like all the small details they put into this, like how you can faintly hear Spring Bonnie walking around in the other rooms and opening doors so you can gauge how close he is to you. And how when you're hiding, it switches to a first-person view so you can see him walking around trying to find you. If he does spot you, you'll have to run away and try to find someplace to hide. However, the longer you run, the more likely you are to trip, causing Spring Bonnie to close the distance. And if he catches you, it's game over. As the night progresses, the other animatronics start looking for us too, adding their own unique challenges. If Chica spots us, she starts making a ton of noise, attracting Spring Bonnie to our location. Bonnie, on the other hand, hides under tables and will grab us if we get too close, and Freddy blocks us from using certain doors. I really like how the animatronics have their own unique mechanics to try to stop us, rather than having them all act like Spring Bonnie and capture us. It lets Spring Bonnie take center stage as the villain because he's the only one that can actually cause us to lose the game, while the other animatronics make it easier for him to get us. The puzzles we need to solve aren't that complicated, most of them just require us bringing an item to a specific location. For example, one of the puzzles requires us to lure Bonnie out of a room. To do that, we find out that Bonnie hates it when anyone tries to play his guitar, so we go backstage to play it, only to find that all the strings are broken. We travel to the present to find new guitar strings, head back to the past, and fix it. Then we play his guitar on stage. While it is a solid little puzzle, my biggest complaint is it feels like a major missed opportunity with the time travel mechanic. It's only really used to grab one item from the present that we need to use in the past, but it feels like we could have done so much more with it. Like, maybe there's a metal box that we need to open, but it's sealed shut, so we use a wrench to cause a pipe to drip on the box in the past. Then, when we go to the present, we find out that over the years, the water has caused the box to rust, and we're now able to open it and grab the item. Something to take advantage of the fact that we're traveling in time between pizzerias. The night sections also has a part where before we can even get to the pizzeria, we first need to escape our own house. I really like these parts because, unlike the pizzeria, there's no set path you need to take to escape. Instead, you start out with 4 methods of escaping, and after you use them once, it's blocked off the next night, so you'll have to find another way. Some of them are as simple as walking out the front door, while others require you to carry the noisiest ladder in the entire world to the other side of the house. Like the pizzeria, Spring Bonnie is also looking for us here, but since the house is so much smaller, he can get around much faster, requiring us to be more cautious while we're playing. On the 5th night, after we've saved all the kids, we finally get to rescue our dad, who's tied up in a chair in the back room. Okay, I'm gonna need to pause right here for a second. I thought our dad was in the present and was possessed by Spring Bonnie, but now he's been here the whole time? Then who is the guy who's been living in our house all week? Did he just walk our dad back to the pizzeria on the 5th night and switch back to Spring Bonnie? Look, I know I said I didn't understand the rules and I would just roll with it, but I'm really struggling to understand what's going on. If you understand how all this works, leave a comment below letting me know. And while you're at it, you could also hit that like button and subscribe. After we free our dad, Spring Bonnie storms in and takes him to the ball pit room where we have our final showdown. After some quick time events, we jump through the ball pit to safety on the other side before we're attacked by Spring Bonnie. He bites Oswald's arm before we kick him into the netting of the ball pit. He strangles himself trying to get free and is finally defeated. Oswald's dad wakes up before the two finally head home. A nice ending to the story, except this is a FNAF game, so of course, this isn't the only ending. Yeah, so it turns out I accidentally got one of the good endings my first time through, and almost got the best ending without even realizing it. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of endings in this game, so let's run through them all real quick. In each night of the game, you can find an item that's related to Oswald's father, like his wallet, his wedding ring, and if you get all those items like I did, then you get the moving ending, where you save your dad, but now his family has to move to another town, and Jeff's pizza gets shut down. Rest in peace, Jeff. You are the best character in this entire game. If you don't get all the items, then Spring Bonnie gets you and you become another one of his victims, resulting in the bad ending. There's also another one where if you fail a QuickTime event at the end, you get captured and wake up on the stage of Freddy Fazbear's with the other animatronics being super friendly to you, implying that you died and your spirit is the next one to possess an animatronic, presumably Foxy. In order to get the best ending, you need to both collect all of Dad's items and beat all the arcade games, including a few secret ones. The secret mini-games are all based on other Fazbear Fright stories, hinting that more books might become games in the future. This ending is similar to the moving one, except Oswald and his family stays in town and a bunch of people start moving back. My favorite though is the secret bad ending, where you can just leave your dad and the other kids behind because the game scolds you for taking this path and you can get it right at the beginning. I always found endings like this charming in games. So, is Into the Pit a good game? Well, it's definitely not a bad one, but it's also not great. Don't get me wrong, I liked a lot of the stuff it had to offer, but do we really need another game where William Afton is the bad guy? I mean, FNAF has been going on for over a decade, and we're still fighting the same villain at the same location. I feel like there's so much missed potential in the series because we keep retreading the same ground. I appreciate all the new things they try in this game, but they don't go far enough with it. Why introduce a time travel mechanic if it's only used to hop back and forth to grab a couple items? Why take us back to see the original pizzeria while it was still operational, only to immediately show us all of its dark secrets? I would have preferred it if for the first couple days we go back in time and hang out with our friends, and then they each go missing one by one, so we come back at night to find them, and each night we get closer and closer to the truth before something stops us and we have to leave, forcing us to come back each night with another kid missing, till the fifth night when we're all alone and have to find out the truth about what happened. And then, when we finally do reach the party room, we find all the kids that are in there are the ones we've been hanging out with all week. I mean, most of the kids in this game have names like Scared Child or Terrified Girl, and while I'm glad I saved them, I don't know who any of these kids are. Give me a reason to want to save them other than because I'm saving children. Like maybe during the day we play skee ball or chat about pizza with some of them so they aren't total strangers. That way when they do go missing, it carries a lot more weight because they're my friends who went missing and not just some random kids. It just feels like there's so much more they could have done with this concept, but instead they chose the safest route, one that they know people will play but will ultimately be forgotten in about a month. I'm not saying the game is bad, I did enjoy what I played, it just left me wanting more. It's like if I went to a fancy restaurant and ordered dessert only to be given a snack cake. Like yes, I like snack cakes, but I can get these anywhere. I want something a bit more unique that I couldn't get anywhere else. I mean, how many games have we been fighting against William Afton, hearing about the same missing kids at the same pizzeria location? Even games like Security Breach, which took place in entirely new locations with new animatronics, fell into the same pitfall since in one of the endings it has us fight against William Afton in the old pizzeria. Why introduce villains like the Stitch Wraith and the Mimic, only for them to be sidelined in the next game so good old William Afton can return? I really hope that FNAF steps out of its comfort zone and finally starts exploring new stories. I mean, it's been going on for 10 years now with no signs of stopping, and with multiple studios developing games for them, they're in the perfect position to get more experimental with their games. I think they should keep exploring new genres, but also shake up the story with new characters and ideas. Not every game has to have massive lore implications on the timeline, some can just be games for the sake of games. Or they could start telling their own unique stories that take place in the same world. Like maybe another character finds out what William Afton was doing all those years and tries to resume his twisted work. Or maybe in the future there could be a cult of Afton followers that know the legend of what he did and heard all the rumors about trapped spirits, so they try contacting them only to accidentally release an evil spirit. Something to keep the story moving without having to keep retelling the same handful of events over and over again. But what do you guys think? Did you like the new Into the Pit game? Do you want FNAF to start exploring new ideas? Or stick with the same few that everyone's familiar with? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!